All right, it is time for Friday feedback, and we're starting to get some of our most incisive and aggressive criticism of the presumptive Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, who will soon be made the official Democratic nominee at the DNC. Let's start with, you probably know what's coming. Let's start with a message from Skiller189X4 on YouTube, who says, a far left progressive San Francisco DA whose soft on crime policies have destroyed that city, then as California state AG okayed decriminalizing illegal border crossings, and in the Senate was voted as the most liberal senator, even more than the socialist Bernie Sanders. Got her ass kicked in the 2020 Democratic primaries, and she dropped out early. Picked as a DEI selection for VP, something Jill Biden was reportedly furious about because she knew Harris was a detriment. Complete failure as VP and so-called border czar. 20 million illegals coming in under her watch. Guilty of hiding Biden's cognitive status for 4 years. A dangerous far-left progressive Democrat. Not who the people in Middle American want to vote for. Her first failure as presidential candidate was to snub our closest Democratic ally in the Middle East by not attending Netanyahu's address in Congress. Kamala Harris is never going to win over the American people. The polls and fundraising suggest otherwise, but we could spend an hour on this message. We're not going to do that. But the one thing I want to mention is the idea that Kamala Harris snubbed Israel by not attending Benjamin Netanyahu's speech in Congress. J.D. Vance did the same thing. And yet none of these right wingers are willing to say, well, it was a snub only when Kamala did it, but not when J.D. did it. They just ignore or don't know about the fact that J.D. Vance also didn't go to the speech. These are not serious people. These are very much not serious people. And if this is the best they can do against Kamala Harris, it explains why her poll numbers look the way they do, and why her fundraising looks the way it does, and why her rally crowds look the way that they do. Skate Cloud wrote on the subreddit, anyone find the branding of MAGA as weird to be an interesting strategy? Was reading another subreddit talking about it. Calling Trump and his goons weird disarms them, and it turns them into a joke rather than giving them importance by branding them as threats to democracy. With a bully like Trump, I'm guessing this kind of branding could get under his skin. Also, somehow it resonates, whereas back in 2016, deplorables seemed to backfire with some. What do you think about weird? So here's my thought. There are voters who are motivated by the accurate description of Trump as a threat to democracy. There are voters who are very much motivated by that. On the other hand, there are voters who have become sort of numb to it because we've been aware of this danger Trump for a while now. And although it's regularly confirmed by the facts, people might be a little desensitized to it. And there is something about, man, these are weird creeps where it's like you're not even dignifying them with the seriousness that they want while still framing them as, I don't want anything to do with you. And it does seem to be getting under Donald Trump's skin. So I don't think you can run or win a campaign simply on my opponent is weird. But as a component that goes along with Project 2025 is a disaster, look what they did to reproductive rights, putting it all together. These guys are weird and creepy as hell. Also helps in a general sense. I wouldn't make it my only thing, but I would definitely, I definitely understand including it. Anonymous Preem says on YouTube, I'm not sure. Before it happened, I would have said no, but now it's looking like Kamala has energized the Democrats and independent, and she has thrown the MAGA hats into disarray. She is off to a great start. It's a sad thing where one of the gauges as to how Kamala Harris is doing is how unhinged and disjointed the MAGA people are, because it sort of starts to smell a little bit like our only point is to own the libs, which was what the right did for a while when they abandoned policy. But here's the counter. We haven't abandoned policy. We have coherent policy on taxation, foreign policy, trade, economics, reproductive rights, education, environment. And also, we notice that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party has been thrown into complete triggered disarray by the arrival of Kamala Harris as the presumptive Democratic nominee. So I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing it, just as long as we continue to campaign in a serious manner. Now, let's talk about one aspect of that a little bit. Kathy wrote on Facebook's, she being Kamala, she can't even answer a question. She has no plan to fix the price of everything people can't afford to live its paycheck to paycheck anymore. And her pick, the Tim Tampon man, you people need to wake up. So grammatically incoherent, no doubt about it. But with regard to inflation, I really would love to sit down and talk to one of these folks and say, got it. Inflation, prices are up. I understand prices are up globally since the pandemic. I'm with you. Certain things are hard to afford. Let's work on it together. First, why do you blame Biden, given that of all the Western developed wealthier nations, the U.S. has had the lowest inflation? So inflation everywhere among Western developed countries, lowest in the U.S. Why are we blaming Biden? Second part, tell me exactly what presidents can do to bring prices down in absolute terms, because they seem to be saying, and I've gotten emails, until prices go back to what they were in 2020, I won't believe that a president is doing a good job. You're talking about a deflationary situation, very rare and bad for the economy in many ways. Slowing down inflation, absolutely. Economists agree that's a good thing. Causing a deflationary spiral, not aware of anyone serious who's actually advocating for that. So I'd love to talk to them a little bit to see whether they understand any of this stuff. I don't think they do. That's my instinct. No Sabathia wrote on Reddit, clickbait titles, a way to lose credibility. I like this topic. Let's discuss it. So I know it's a common YouTube tactic, but I've noticed David Pakman doing it a lot, and I think it's a mistake. It will be like Donald Trump off the rails and loses it or something, and then the video will be Trump making a little misspeak and Pakman overreacting about it. This is a way to lose legitimacy. There are plenty of ways to get views and promote your politics without doing it. I suggest to title things accurately and not to overreact to small things. Anyway, just throwing it out into the world of Reddit. Yeah, I've addressed this many times before. Titles have evolved over time. You've got to play the game that's happening on the platform to succeed. I would encourage you to give me some examples of people who do what I do that use deliberately sort of like boring and milquetoast titles and do well. I just don't think that there is anybody. Now, my big things here are, let's do what is appropriate on each platform to build an audience so that then they consume the content, hear the message, and hopefully vote in a way that makes the country better. Are we guilty of playing the games on the platforms? Yes. When we've tried not playing them, nobody watches the content, nobody listens to the content. So my suggestion to this particular person would be, if you like more of a button-down approach to how we characterize the content, just listen to the audio podcast. The audio podcast does not have editorialized titles. It doesn't have 5-minute clips that are pulled out. For this viewer, the 1-hour audio podcast may be a better fit constitutionally and ethically and morally and all of that. So we're offering different things on different platforms. We're doing the best we can. And as far as losing credibility, I don't think we are, in the sense that the YouTube audience is as big as ever. The podcast audience is as big as ever. I've written a book, and the pre-order campaign is off to an incredible start. I'm getting more speaking gig invitations than ever, invitations to other shows. Like, anything we could look at seems to be going really well. So at least for now, I think we're okay. On the topic of J.D. Vance's makeup that he wears, Gavin Ray asks, is JD's makeup an issue to this community? David mentioned he received many messages about JD Vance's makeup. Is this really something that's of concern to this community, or are people simply mentioning it because it's surprising to see it on someone who espouses anti-trans rhetoric? For me, it's a non-issue, says Gavin. In fact, as someone who acted in my youth, I'm comfortable seeing a performer wearing stage makeup regardless of gender identity. At least when doing press and interviews, politicians are performers under bright lights. However, I would like to mention I am not totally on board with David's characterization of his makeup as women's or ladies' makeup. Because JD is a man, it would be man's makeup by definition. In my opinion, it should be called stage makeup or simply makeup. Does it sound right? I actually agree completely with Gavin Ray. This is one of those examples where we are playing into what the right believes about makeup. The anti-trans, enforce heteronormalcy right wing characterizes the makeup that JD Vance wears as women's makeup. So we use it only in the context of showing the irony of what they call it. I don't care who wears makeup. To me, it's just makeup, men's makeup, women's makeup. It's eyeliner, it's mascara, it's what it is. And I have no problem with it one way or the other than JD Vance's total hypocrisy on the issue. Suzetsky Hope says Trump didn't make any demands in the first debate, so he can make some this time. Well, that's not true, Suzetsky. Trump made a number of demands in the first debate. They weren't all accepted. For example, Trump wanted no on-screen fact-checking in the debate against Joe Biden. That was granted. Trump also wanted a crowd. That was not granted. So the point here is, it's not true that because Trump made no demands previously, now he can make whatever demands he wants. And even if it were the case that Trump previously did not make demands, it doesn't mean that he's now entitled to get final say over how the debates are organized. It's up to the two candidates to come to an agreement with the organizers of the debates. Edie wrote in on Facebook about polling. And Edie says, the only thing that worries me about the polls is looking back at 2016. Hillary was winning all the polls. She even won the popular vote. But because of the Electoral College, we were stuck with the disaster of 4 years of Trump. We can't let that happen again. Yeah. So you are absolutely correct. We don't know by November what the polls will look like. Will they look better? Will they look worse than they did in November of 2016? I don't know. But the most important takeaway is that no matter what they look like, we should assume that it's close. We should assume it will come down only to a few states. And we should assume that the closer it is, the more potential there is for Trump to try to steal it. So when I see what Edie says, I go, I absolutely agree. Let's do everything we can to make it a blowout, which will make these scary scenarios less likely. So on that note, make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you've pre-ordered my book, The Echo Machine, at davidpakman.com/echo. And I hope you'll stick around for today's bonus show, which will be a very, very good one.